Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. My name is Tom, and a few months ago, I thought I was weeks away from the best day of my life. I was engaged to Cynthia Martin, and we had been together for almost 5 years. We lived in a modest apartment downtown, close to my office, and not far from the boutique where she worked. Life felt steady, predictable, and good. Cynthia's parents, Samuel and Elaine, had always been supportive of us. When we announced our engagement, they surprised us with a gift that floored me: $45,000 to cover the entire wedding. Samuel handed me the check himself over dinner, his voice calm but serious. "This is for the wedding," he said. "It's not to be touched for anything else. We want the two of you to start married life without debt." I promised him I'd guard it like my own. The next morning, I opened a separate savings account at my credit union. It was in my name since the rates were better, but Cynthia had a debit card linked for making vendor deposits. We agreed on one rule: no payment went out unless both of us had talked it through. She liked that system. I liked that it kept things clean. We spent the next weeks picking vendors. The venue took 10 grand up front. I built a spreadsheet to track everything, color-coded and neat. Cynthia laughed when I showed it to her, but admitted it made her feel calmer about the budget. Our weekends were full of meetings with florists and photographers. Cynthia's best friend, Tessa, came along more than once, throwing out ideas for bigger centerpieces, fancier linens, and even a fireworks display. I was polite, but every time I reminded them that the budget had a ceiling. Cynthia brushed it off, saying, "Relax, Tom. This is supposed to be fun." I thought it too, because it felt like progress towards something real. We had a date set, deposits locked in, and a financial plan that made sense. Looking back, the warning signs were there, but at the time I didn't see them for what they were. It was a Thursday morning when everything cracked. I woke up at 6 to a string of alerts from my credit union. At first, I thought the system had glitched. There were too many emails, too many large transaction warnings stacked in my inbox. The first one I opened made my stomach turn: $19,200. The Palisade Grand, Las Vegas. Hotel charge, 2 nights prior. I scrambled to log into the banking app. When the screen finally loaded, I felt my chest tighten. The balance, which had been over $40,000 just days before, was now under $50. The charges hit like hammers: $19,200 for Palisade Grand Hotel, $8,700 for Marquee Nightlife, VIP bottle service, $6,900 for Dior Boutique, Las Vegas Boulevard, $5,200 for Cartier, $400 here, $600 there, restaurants and bars, one $500 ATM withdrawal. Almost the entire fund drained. At first, my brain fought it. Fraud? Maybe her card was stolen. Maybe it was all a mistake. I was about to call the bank when my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a group story posted by Tessa. The video showed Cynthia in a gold dress, hair loose, sunglasses on, though it was clearly night. She stood in the middle of a crowded club, champagne glass raised, shouting over the music. Behind her, a banner: "Bachelorette weekend, Vegas." Tessa's caption read, "She's doing it big before the big day." My stomach dropped. Cynthia had told me she was going to a spa retreat 2 hours away with a few friends. A quiet weekend, she said, nothing extravagant. Instead, here she was, halfway across the country, blowing through every cent her parents had gifted us for our wedding. I didn't text a paragraph. I didn't call. I typed 2 words and sent them: "Have fun." Then I set the phone down on the table and stared at the wall. The future I thought we were building had just collapsed in front of me, not with an accident, but with a choice. After I sent that text, a strange calm settled over me. The panic had burned off, leaving only focus. The first thing I did was call a locksmith. Our apartment had 3 locks on the front door, and I wanted every one of them changed before Cynthia set foot back in town. Next, I opened our wedding spreadsheet. Line by line, I started calling vendors. Some deposits were non-refundable: $10,000 on the venue, $5,000 on catering, and $3,500 on photography. I paid those from my own checking account, just so there wouldn't be any dispute about who owed what later. It stung, but it was clean. Then came the hardest part. I dialed Elaine's number. She answered cheerfully, "Tom, how are my favorite lovebirds?" I took a breath. "Elaine, I need you and Samuel to sit down before I tell you this." She went quiet, then called her husband to the phone. I laid it all out, how the fund was drained, where the money went, the video from Vegas. I kept my voice steady, listing the charges like a police report. "Are you certain?" Elaine whispered. "Maybe her card." "Elaine," I cut in, "I saw the footage. This wasn't fraud." Silence stretched on the line. Then Samuel spoke, his voice clipped. "Tom, don't make any final moves until we speak with her." "I already have," I replied. "The wedding is canceled. The locks are changed." Another long pause. Then Samuel said, "We'll handle our daughter. You do what you need to do." When the call ended, I sat in the quiet apartment. Her things were everywhere. I packed a small bag of essentials for her, a few changes of clothes, her laptop, and toiletries. It sat by the door. For the first time in 4 years, I felt like I was living alone. Cynthia showed up 2 days later. I heard her key scrape the lock, then stop. A pause, then the rattle of the handle. She tried again, harder this time. Finally, a sharp knock. "Tom," her voice was sharp, impatient. "My key isn't working. Open the door." I stood on the other side, arms crossed. "It won't work. The locks are changed." A beat of silence, then a furious laugh. "You've got to be kidding me. You lock me out because I took a trip with my friends? That money was for us. I was celebrating before the wedding. People do this all the time. People don't empty $45,000 of their parents' gift at parties and designer stores," I said evenly. Her tone shifted to pleading. "It was one weekend. I'll figure it out. We can rebuild. Don't be so dramatic. You spent the entire fund, Cynthia. Every cent. The wedding is over." Her fists thudded against the door. "You're not serious? You're punishing me for living a little." I didn't answer. And then headlights swept across the parking lot. A car door slammed. Voices carried. "Cynthia." Samuel's voice cut through the night like a blade. "Get away from that door." She turned, stunned. "Dad? Mom? What are you doing here?" Elaine's heels clicked on the pavement as she came into view. "We saw the charges. We saw the video. You lied to us, and you lied to him." Cynthia's tone turned defensive. "It was my bachelorette trip. Everyone else does it big. Why can't I?" "Because it wasn't your money," Samuel said flatly. He looked like he had aged 10 years in 2 days. "It was ours, and it was meant for your wedding, not for champagne and handbags." Cynthia's voice rose. "I'll pay it back. I'll get a second job if I have to." "With what?" Samuel snapped. "Your part-time boutique paycheck? That might cover a week of interest." He pointed to the car. "Get in. Now." For the first time, Cynthia faltered. Her face crumpled, not in anger but in fear. She glanced at the door, maybe hoping I would open it, maybe hoping I would say something to save her. I stayed silent. Elaine put a hand on her daughter's arm. "We're done here. Get in the car, Cynthia." Slowly, she obeyed. When the taillights disappeared, the apartment was silent again. The quiet didn't last. By the next afternoon, my phone buzzed nonstop. Texts, tags, and screenshots. Tessa had posted a long Instagram story about how some men can't handle strong women, and how Cynthia was escaping a controlling relationship. Comments flooded in, calling me every name in the book. I didn't respond. I didn't even block them. Silence was more effective. 3 days later, a letter arrived by certified mail. The envelope was thick, the letterhead slick. Brandon Keene, attorney at law. According to the letter, Cynthia had suffered emotional distress and financial instability caused by my unreasonable and unilateral decision to end the engagement. It claimed that since we'd lived together for over 2 years, a domestic partnership existed, entitling her to equitable distribution. The demand, $60,000 to help her rebuild her life. I read it twice, then set it down on the table. For a moment, I almost admired the creativity. Then I pulled out my laptop. My reply was direct, professional. I attached a complete bank statement showing the withdrawals, $45,000 spent in 4 days at Las Vegas hotels, nightclubs, and luxury boutiques. Screenshots from Tessa's posts of Cynthia holding shopping bags and champagne flutes in Vegas, smiling with friends. And a signed note from Samuel and Elaine confirming the gift was restricted to wedding expenses and that Cynthia was solely responsible for the loss. My email read, "Mr. Keene, Any attempt to pursue this frivolous claim will result in a countersuit for harassment and a formal complaint to the bar. The only party damaged here is myself for lost deposits already reimbursed by Cynthia's parents. Your client's financial state is a direct result of her own decisions, not mine. Consider this matter closed." I pressed send and leaned back in my chair. That night, Samuel called me. "Tom, I swear we didn't know she was going to involve a lawyer. This was Tessa's doing." "I believe you," I told him, "but it ends here." And it did. The next morning, the silence was louder than any smear campaign. No more calls, no more posts, no more letters. Just quiet. A week later, there was a knock at my door. It was 2 police officers. One stood on each side of her, their faces unreadable. She was behind them, arms folded, trying to look fragile. "Sir," one officer said, "we received a call that you may have locked your fiancée out illegally. She claims this is her residence." I kept my voice calm. "Officer, the lease is in my name alone. Would you like to see it?" I laid the paperwork on the table, then pulled out the bank statement and the screenshots. The officer skimmed the pages, jaw tightening. He glanced at Cynthia. "Ma'am, this isn't an illegal eviction. This is a domestic dispute. You need to resolve this in civil court." Cynthia's composure cracked. "You don't understand, The officer cut her off. "Ma'am, you need to leave." I sat at the kitchen table, steady, not triumphant, just tired. That weekend, Samuel showed up with a U-Haul. Together, we loaded Cynthia's boxes. He paused before leaving, his voice low. "Tom, I'll make you whole for those deposits. Give me a little time." A week later, a cashier's check arrived in the mail for $18,000, the exact total I'd lost to vendors. Meanwhile, Cynthia's world was shrinking. Word spread that her Vegas spree wasn't just reckless. It was funded by her parents' money. Tessa tried to keep the story alive online, but even her circle started drifting when suppliers demanded payment for shopping sprees she couldn't cover. I spent those days clearing the apartment. I sold the couch we'd picked together. I replaced the framed photos with my own prints. And for the first time in weeks, I could breathe without feeling the weight of someone else's mistakes pressing on my chest. By the middle of the next month, Cynthia had moved out of her parents' house. Samuel told me she couldn't handle their rules. She lasted 6 weeks before packing her things and storming out. She ended up in a shared apartment on the far edge of the city with 2 roommates she barely knew. From what I heard, she was working reception at a salon during the day and waitressing at night, trying to keep up with bills and the leftover debt she'd piled on her own cards. Her friendship with Tessa didn't survive either. A designer store sent invoices for purchases Cynthia had promised would be covered soon. When no payment came, Tessa tried to distance herself. Their texts leaked through mutual friends, screaming matches over who had pushed the trip and who should take the blame. Meanwhile, I was moving forward. I booked a 3-week solo trip overseas. It wasn't about revenge. It was about clearing my head. I hiked mountain trails, ate alone in quiet cafes, and sat on trains with nothing but my thoughts. Every day, I felt lighter. By the time I got back, I wasn't thinking about Cynthia at all. The smear campaign had fizzled. Without drama to feed on, people lost interest. My phone was silent again, and I liked it that way. The future felt open instead of ruined. 6 months later, I saw Cynthia again. It was a rainy Tuesday morning. I ducked into a coffee shop on my way to the office, ordered a black coffee, and waited near the counter. When I turned, she was standing in line. She didn't see me at first. She looked smaller somehow, as if the weight of the past months had pressed her down. When she reached the counter, she pulled out a handful of crumpled bills and ordered the cheapest drink on the menu. For a moment, I just watched. This wasn't the woman in the gold dress, throwing champagne in Vegas. This was someone stripped of the shine and bravado. Then she noticed me. Her eyes widened, and for a second I thought she might turn and walk out. Instead, she gave a nervous smile. "Tom," she said quietly, "can we talk?" I shook my head. "There's nothing left to talk about." Her lip trembled. "I made mistakes, I know. But maybe we could." "No," I said firmly. "You made choices. I made mine." There was no anger in my voice, no satisfaction either, just finality. I picked up my coffee and walked past her toward the door. Back at home, in the bottom drawer of my desk, there was one artifact from it all: the bank statement. Line 1 showed Samuel and Elaine's $45,000 deposit. Directly beneath it were the Vegas charges, hotels, clubs, boutiques, and the withdrawal. 2 lines that told the whole story. I kept it, not out of bitterness, but as a reminder that trust can vanish in a single choice. A reminder that discipline outlasts impulse. And most of all, that sometimes the best revenge isn't shouting or fighting or even winning. It's living steady, living well, and walking away with your peace intact. Thank you for watching.